Sling TV has something for everyone. It really just depends on what kind of mood you're in. But no matter what you're looking for, you can watch it with Sling. Sports, news, or today's hottest shows. Plus, you can explore thousands of movies and shows on demand. And getting Sling is easy. Sign up and start watching in just 5 minutes, stream on any device, and record up to 50 hours with included DVR space. Plus, you won't get locked into a long-term contract. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. Welcome to the Andy Staples Show, presented by Sling. What a day, Ari Wasserman. What a day. Scratch one potential playoff contender in Oregon. Washington takes down the Ducks in Eugene. But do we feel a little differently about TCU? Vegas said yes. Texas was back. Texas ain't back.
Yes, I do feel differently about TCU. I guess we should start right there because that was my favorite thing about the college football community, Andy, is those games. And I know that everybody does it with the NFL too and the NBA finals and stuff, but every weekend, the entire college football community that I surround myself with on my Twitter is watching it at the same time. We got jokes, comments, everybody's at the edge of their seat, and we got that in that Oregon game.
Oh, it was something.
But TCU had control of their game in the background while everybody was obsessed with that Oregon ending. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, as impressive of a win as they could possibly have right now?
Well, yes, because what was the committee worried about? Game control. Who controlled that game? TCU's defense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a different type of win. It was on the road, and I don't care what the rankings say or what Texas's record was, but that's a very tough game for TCU to win no matter what.
They'll still be the highest fourth-ranked team. I mean, I loved that the committee's rankings last week were the Ascalon rankings. Like, that was my favorite part of it. that Texas and Notre Dame were way higher than they should have been. Because clearly the committee members like the advanced stats. They won't admit it. They're not saying it. But we can tell when you're using S&P or SP Plus or FPI or Massey or Sagarin, like, we can tell that you are weighing those heavily by what you do.
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about TCU is that, when you say, does your perspective change? I think it does, but I also don't think that they're in a position where any of that matters. The only thing that matters is whether they win or lose.
Right, and the thing
because is, if they lose, they're done. So,
yeah.
They can win every game by one. Our perceptions can change. They can stay the same. They control their own destiny with 3 winnable games coming up for them. So, but I thought that this was a revelatory win for them. That was a hard-fought game. It was on the road. And I got to tell you, Andy, I thought that Texas's defensive front for that first half or for most of that game looked like an SEC defensive front, the way that they were playing. I mean,
from a talent standpoint, they have talent. Like, they have what they need. They actually seem to be ahead of Oklahoma personnel-wise for the move to the SEC. But they still can't put it all together. Still can't beat. I mean, as good as TCU is, they don't have the star ratings that Texas does, but TCU's a better team, has a better culture.
But just like, even if you throw all the Texas stuff that we always talk about out the window, the way that Texas's defense was playing in that game, I thought TCU was a walking L. And I was texting Sam Kahn, our techspert, who was at that game. I was just like, it's only a matter of time before these wheels fall off. And I was wrong the entire time, all the way through. I thought that that Texas's defense was playing well enough that, Bijan would hit a big run or Quinn Ewers would make a big play. And, if you would have told me that TCU only scored, 17 points.
Yeah.
That before the game, that would have made me like Texas even more. And I told you even before the game started that Texas was going to roll them, I thought.
Yep.
And I was wrong completely. So the fact of the matter is that does it change my perspective of TCU? Sure, because they've had a pretty tough road of it. And not only that, they went on the road with a hostile environment. The Gary Patterson thing is kind of something that we joke about, but that's a real,
it's a real thing from a standpoint of someone on the other sideline knows your personnel very, very well.
And the number one thing that's ironic about this whole thing is that Gary Patterson, who has a statue outside of TCU, his number one regret, and I don't know if regret's the right word, but the thing that he would remember most bitterly was being left out of the playoff in 2014. He gets fired in the middle of last year. He writes the folk song about it, and then TCU in year one of the Sonny Dykes era is knocking on the door of the playoff, where there will be no debate if they win.
No.
So there's a lot to unpack there. But TCU has won in a lot of different ways. Sometimes they had game control, sometimes they didn't. But despite being hit in the face, I think that there was some stat that Texas had a tackle for loss on 8 of the first 17 plays of the game or something. They were kicking their ass.
Right.
The defense on offense.
TCU was getting the ball in good field position, but
going backward.
I think going into the second half, the amount of plays they'd run in Texas territory, or maybe before the first field goal, the amount of plays they'd run in Texas territory, all of those plays were averaging like half a yard per play.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when your quarterback's getting sacked on every other play. And then even when Duggan fumbled the ball and they scooped and scored at the end, TCU gets the ball back, and you think that Texas is going to get a shot with a stop to push overtime, and what do? Slam the door on the face. Texas doesn't touch the ball again. Like, good teams close games out, even in weird scenarios like that. So I have a tremendous amount of respect from TCU, and I think the beauty of this conversation is that regardless of what I think or you think or anybody in this chat thinks, they're driving the bus here.
Absolutely. And so, I kept saying all week, I don't think Texas will get him. I think Baylor's going to get him. Not after tonight, I don't. K-State manhandled Baylor. And now I think TCU's path is pretty clear now that they're going to have to play somebody good in the Big 12 title game. Kind of looks like it's going to be K-State again.
Yeah. And beating the same team twice is a really hard thing to do in the same year, in my opinion. But I just think it's time that we stop viewing TCU as a dead man walking in the Pac-12, just waiting to find its loss, and start respecting them as a team that is just better than these other teams in the Big 12. And you know what? They might still lose. It's college football. It's really hard what they have to do at the end of the year, but what they've already been through and the way that they won this game, even an ugly game where it looked like they were going to be facing some major issues, they won that football game, and not only did they win it, they took control of it after they almost lost control on the road in the game's final 5 minutes. So they've got long, rangy receivers. Duggan's a playmaker. Their running back is great. The backs is incredible. Good, yeah. I think that it's just like hard because there's two ways of having this discussion. One is, do you have a different perspective of TCU as it pertains to whether or not they could beat a team like Georgia? I don't think my perspective on that has changed.
But my perspective on everybody beating Georgia hasn't changed.
But do you think TCU would beat Ohio State or any of the other teams that are like firmly in the mix? Would they beat Tennessee or some of the other teams that we're talking about here? Would they beat Michigan? I don't know. I think those are two separate discussions, but do they belong in the playoff, and have they earned that spot? If they win their next 3 games, I think it's an unequivocal yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're in if they're undefeated. If they've got a loss, there's going to be a debate. Tennessee's going to be tough to overcome for any one-loss team. I'm warning everybody now. Like, just get your minds right for that, because the committee's going to like Tennessee's wins better. So
is there a scenario in your mind where TCU could lose a regular season game, win the Big 12, and still get in?
Yes, Tennessee loses to South Carolina or Vandy.
And that's it.
What if Michigan lost to Illinois and then won the Big Ten? I don't know. They'd still make it in if they won the Big Ten. So I don't know.
It's just I don't know. Like, the thing that I think is an interesting discussion, and I don't know if we have the answers for that right now. Maybe let the dust settle from today and see how things line up. But is there a scenario where TCU can play themselves into some insurance, or play themselves in a situation where they don't have to be perfect? Or is it just kind of like take the analysis out of it and
I just think
win your games?
I think they got to be perfect. I think win your games and you are in. There will be no debate. You might even be number 2 or number 3, depending on what happens with Georgia and what happens with Ohio State and Michigan. But just win. And you are in. So you have to win 3 more games. They're all 3 winnable games. One of them will be against a team you've already beaten. So you got to look at it that way. So
yep. Yeah, but great win for them, and I'm happy that there's more discussion with them for another week. So it'll be cool to see what the committee does with them too.
The Oregon thing was amazing because they could not stop Washington. So they go on a 10-minute drive. It looked like they were going to put Washington away and never give Washington the ball back. And then Bo Nix gets hammered on a third down play. They've got to kick a field goal. Washington, of course, can score again. Well, no, Washington doesn't score again. Oregon gets the ball back. They have a chance to score. And Bo Nix is trying to get back in the game. It's fourth down, deep in Oregon territory. They don't realize Bo Nix is trying to get back in the game. They try to hand off on fourth down. Back slips.
4th and 1 from inside your own 40.
Yeah.
In a tie game with 4 minutes left.
Well,
right?
I understand why you're not punting, because you can't stop Michael Penix.
So, like, everybody was outraged by the call.
Mm-hmm.
I was not at all outraged.
I wasn't outraged by the decision to go for it. I was not pleased with the play call itself.
The play call is fine, or do something, because they had a timeout still.
Right.
If you're going for it, you got to have to understand that you're going for the game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if Bo Nix is on the sideline begging to come in, you got to figure out a way to get him on the field for that final play.
Right.
Because Bo Nix adds that extra element where he could keep the ball.
And that's one of those things, like Kenny Dillingham is up in the box, the offensive coordinator, and Dan Lanning is down on the field, the head coach. I don't know who the point of contact is for the offense on the field. I know Adrian Clem, the offensive line coach, works down there. And I'm sure there's another assistant that is Bo Nix's point of contact on the field. But yeah, that information needs to be relayed to the head coach. Bo's okay. He can get back, because the Bo Nix quarterback sneak for most of this season has been unstoppable.
And you might not be able to collapse on the running back slipped. So, but I don't know if you can completely sell out to stop the running back the way that they did as well. So, the fact that they went for it is one thing, but the fact they went for it with a healthy or ready to get back in the game Bo Nix on the sideline was very strange to me. And of course, Washington goes up to take the lead, and then Bo Nix comes in with less than a minute left, and I think no timeouts at that time. So, that was a tough look. And, I think we all anticipated that Oregon, Nicole shared the stat on Thursday or Friday when we had our show about how no team has made it through the Pac-12 without losing a game in the playoff era. Mm-hmm. And that one really stuck with me because, it does seem like year after year, Oregon gets bitten by teams like this in games and spots like this. And, I didn't know if I saw it coming, but the fact of the matter is, Andy, and we were talking about this, is their defense is terrible. There's no other way to put it.
Right. When they've played good offenses, they have had big
problems. Entire year, anytime they've played good offenses, they
Except
can't
for
get
UCLA.
stops.
They got stops against UCLA.
They did. Yeah. But I think the same exact game is going to happen again next weekend. We get USC and UCLA. So,
by the way, UCLA locked in a fight with Arizona. They just tied it up. It's 14-all.
Wow, they just had the ball at their own 1, so that must have been a fast drive.
That was not a drive. I believe it was a defensive score. So,
Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw a 51-yard touchdown.
Oh, no, it was a touchdown pass. Okay,
yeah.
All right. This is what I get for podcasting and watching at the same time.
Yeah, you know what? You're doing your best. We're all having a good time here.
Well, here's the deal. If UCLA loses, we'll come back. You can be asleep. I'll come back and we'll talk.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to worry about that. Maybe a little bit earlier that would have been the case, but Arizona is usually good for one of these wins, but it's usually at home. So I think that
Tyron Fetterman in our chat, I think TCU could beat Tennessee. TCU has a decent defense, and Tennessee defense not as good as Texas. Yes, but you also have to play against Tennessee's offense.
Yeah, Tennessee's offense.
You're not Georgia's defense.
And there's one thing that I have to say, and a lot of people are like kind of throwing this in my face a little bit, and maybe I deserve it, but Quinn Ewers looked off tonight. I don't know what was going on there, but he did not have a very good game.
No, and he's had a couple bad games this year. He's like the Oklahoma State game was not good at all for him. So, if only they had another big time quarterback recruit coming in next year.
That's it. Are we punting on Ewers?
I'm not punting. I'm just saying it's an open competition.
Yeah, there's a
I'm
chance that if he's not the guy, they have another option coming in, but I don't think I'm ready to punt on the guy yet, but I do think that there were a few plays there. His deep ball accuracy is very underwhelming. And, I thought that would be one of his strengths, given the way that he was evaluated during his high school career. But, yeah, he missed a lot of throws tonight. And, that was, I don't know. I don't want to trash a teenager, but, it wasn't a good game.
He's got that kombucha money. You can be critical now.
If you get NIL deals, we can be more critical.
Especially if you have a sweet ride. Yes.
I think that if you have your own logo, I can be critical. So when
I
we get
think
to the Graham,
that's fair. Or your
Yeah.
own condiment. Oh, by the way, pass down the seam to the tight end from Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It was a beautiful throw. I just watched
floodgates are open. So when we get to the Wisconsin discussion, I'll let you have it. But that was not the best game from Quinn. And I feel like if you would have had a 5 out of 10 game, they would have had a chance to win. And I think that was like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah. And look, I was very impressed with TCU's defense. I've been impressed with TCU's defense all year. They have put down the clamps when they've had to. Like second half against Oklahoma State, second half against Kansas State, second half against Texas Tech, and then the entire game against Texas. I'm not going to – it's like the reverse of what we talked about with Nebraska in the Scott Frost era. At what point does it stop being a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. They're good. They're just good. So
yeah. And I mean, Texas had a few shots there deep in the red zone too that they didn't get touchdowns on a few drives. But hey, I don't know if this is a Texas is not back discussion or a TCU is firmly in control.
TCU.
But let's celebrate TCU.
Let's not turn this into a Texas discussion because it doesn't need to be. As TCU showed us, Texas doesn't need to be discussed now.
And it's also not anything new what we've seen from Texas tonight. Like that's kind of what it is. So
TCU, by the way, since Mac Brown was fired, TCU has won 8 of 12 meetings with Texas.
Wow.
8 of 12. I'm sorry, 8 of 10. 8 of 10. 8 of 10.
So Gary Patterson is 9-1. Did I do that math correctly?
No, Gary Patterson lost 2.
He lost tonight. Yeah. So he's
no. Well, now he's lost 3 because he lost 2 as the.
He's
TCU
lost 2
coach.
and now he's 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Poor guy.
He still won most of them.
He won most of them. But he doesn't want TCU to go to the playoff this year. I mean, come on.
No, because it makes him look bad because he had most of these players and he wasn't doing this with them.
Yeah.
But they are doing exactly what they need to do. Let us move to the other playoff potential teams, playoff adjacent teams. There's not much to say about Georgia and Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State played better than I thought they would, but Georgia still mushed them. Georgia's the number 1 seed. Georgia's the number 1 team. Georgia's going to crush Kentucky, which lost to Vanderbilt, by the way. And then Georgia's going to crush Georgia Tech. And then I don't have a lot of faith in LSU to beat Georgia either. So there you go.
Lose some faith on LSU today or what?
I lost a considerable amount of faith, though I did appreciate them bringing chicken broth and hot chocolate and coffee to be on the sidelines on a cold day in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So
what would be your choice if you were on the sidelines on a cold day in Fayetteville?
Well, if I'm playing football, I think I'm going chicken broth. But if I'm just standing there,
chicken broth would be pretty good.
Or coffee. Yeah.
No, coffee might give you the scoots though, and you might have to run to the locker room.
That's true. Well, if I'm just standing there not playing, I'm not wearing the pants with the pads, and like I can just walk in there.
I don't think you'd be the first person that's had to run to the locker room for a quick.
Exactly. So Georgia's still good. Not really much else to say about them.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
By the way, if the air raid is playing a powerhouse in the SEC, just lay the points and make money. It happens every time.
Exactly. Tennessee hung 66 on Missouri. Guess what? It turns out when they're not playing Georgia's defense, their offense is still really good.
It was funny because the score was 28-24 in the third quarter, wasn't it?
Right.
And then I looked at the score again, and they had 59 points. I'm like, what the hell happened over there? I guess Tennessee just remember they were Tennessee.
Yeah.
And laid some points on them. Yeah. So, and that's the team that they beat isn't going to be getting anybody to, strain any neck muscles turning to look at it. But, when you put up a 60 burger on an SEC opponent, it kind of helps maintain some momentum as you try to sneak your way into this thing.
And Ohio State named its score against Indiana, had a touching moment at the end, right? The touchdown to who the
his name was Cameron Babb.
Cameron Babb.
If you don't know his backstory, he was a top 100 receiver, I believe, from St. Louis area. And when they got him, he was a big time get. And, obviously this was before or at the beginning of Ohio State's run at the receiver position in recruiting. And he has torn both ACLs, has a lot of nagging injuries. All the while he, stuck with the team. He could have, it was kind of like Johnny Dixon a few years before him, where he was just snake bitten when it came to all the injuries, but he stayed with it, became a captain of the team. Everybody looked up to him. He wears that block O number the way that, they handed out for the captain, and he finally got into a game, and I think that was his first reception
right
in college.
And it was a touchdown,
and the entire Ohio State sideline swarmed him as an ode to how much he means to that football team. And it's funny, you've got, in my opinion, the best receivers too. I don't know if you think Marvin Harrison or Jackson Smith-Njigba is better, but they've got
Jackson
two.
Smith-Njigba hasn't really been able to play this
playing.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver currently playing right now.
Did you see the catch with the leg?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I don't even know how he got that foot down, but
there were 2 catches today, and we'll talk about the other one in the Notre Dame game later. But
yeah,
it was just what
an illustration of a team loving each other. And I don't want to sound cliche, and I hate all this brotherhood stuff, but it was a nice, touching moment, and you love to see people who persevere and stick with it, who could have just become a team manager or gone into coaching. Stick with the athletics and actually get in the game and do something. It's big, and that's a moment he'll never forget. So certainly the most interesting thing about that Ohio State-Indiana game, other than Ohio State seemed to kind of wake up, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, Indiana is not going to provide much of a challenge. No. Michigan also kind of name your score against Nebraska. It looked kind of a little bit of a slow start, but once they got going, they Blake Corum, another big game. So again, they're just sort of hurtling toward that meeting.
Yeah, it's 2 meteors in space ready to collide. And it just stinks that we've got to wait 2 more weeks to see it. But, that's the position that we're in right now.
And I'm not totally out on the idea of them both somehow making the playoff. I think there may be some wacky scenarios where that might happen. But
I think it will come down to what the committee prefers. Will it be Tennessee or whoever loses that game?
Right. And I'm telling you, the committee likes what it considers to be good wins.
Mm-hmm. And Michigan has none.
Unfortunately for Michigan and Ohio State, they're not going to like the wins. Yeah. And that's the problem. And
in all scenarios too, like you might be, I think what the comparison will be is, can you overlook a blowout loss because of the wins, or the only loss that, either Ohio State, Michigan has as a loss in a rivalry game? That's close. That's.
And I think the closeness of that game will influence it somewhat too. Or if it is a game that is decided in a controversial fashion, it's a very close game.
But there's no guarantee that game's going to be close either way. I think either team could blow the other one out. So that is going to be one of the better games of the year, and I cannot wait to watch it. And the thing that stinks about the Big Ten is sometimes you get into these types of seasons, especially for the long time I was covering Ohio State, where they just don't play interesting games during the year. Like Ohio State's gone all year, and they played Notre Dame in the opener when nobody knew what to expect, and then ever since then there hasn't been a single exciting game.
Yeah, the other teams in the Big Ten need to step up and be better.
It's just too easy.
That's the difference with the Big Ten and the SEC. Like the SEC has teams that put tons of money into this and get good players and try to be interesting. Like. The Big Ten needs more teams doing that.
The theme of this podcast, too, is as we're talking, we will update the Arizona-UCLA game, and Arizona just took the lead again.
They did just score.
So I guess, we're going to be up till 3 in the morning again. So.
Jaden Delora, baby.
Yeah.
Jed Fish with the little side fist pump right there.
13 of 15 for 161 yards and a touchdown and another rushing touchdown. So he's having a pretty good game. But, I don't know. We're going to be talking a lot about who we think is going to win that game, and there will be plenty of time for that. I am just a little disappointed that Michigan has gone through an entire season, and their best team they've played is Penn State, and Ohio State's gone through an entire season, and the best team that they've played is Penn State. It's just
I just want to see them challenge. Now, speaking of Penn State, they look great today. Like
well,
destroyed Maryland.
Loxley on the road. What do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. So this is. What changes here? All right. So the rankings, I don't think the top of the rankings change. It's still going to look like it did this past week. Where's Oregon falling to?
9, 10.
Yeah.
Ish.
Where's Washington coming up to? Because that's the other question is, like, Washington's now in the mix for the Pac-12 title.
Yeah,
they hold a very important
tiebreaker that actually have a chance to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like funny too, because if UCLA can beat Arizona, which isn't a given as we're currently speaking, USC beat the crap out of Colorado on Friday night. Like all the teams that were ranked outside of Oregon won. Like Utah won, right? Or is winning.
Is winning. They're playing right now.
So to me, it's like Washington was number 25. I could see them jumping to 14, 13 after that.
Yeah.
Especially because it was on the road. The thing that's interesting is now Washington's a 2-loss team, and their 2 losses are against, I can't believe they lost to ASU, but we were together that weekend. But an 8-point loss at UCLA, I guess, is a forgivable loss. But, now we're into that 2-loss. There's a bunch of 2 and 3 loss teams ahead of Washington. I don't think there'll be a single 3-loss team ahead of them coming into the
By the way, so it's halftime in Salt Lake, and Utah's only up 14-7 on Stanford.
Okay, well,
just keep that in the back of your mind. Too.
Is the Pac-12 imploding right now? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know if we're talking about imploding. You and I always said USC had the best chance because they play Notre Dame.
I think that USC, though, the Pac-12 cleared the way for USC to make the playoff if they can do this. The problem is that I don't think that USC is going to win.
I don't think they're going to win, and even if they did, the resumes are going to be put side by side, and Tennessee is going to be put in the playoff.
Well, you might be put in a situation if TCU loses where you need to find 2 teams.
That's true. This is a good point.
If you need to find 2 teams, what I think would be interesting is
then it would be TCU versus
TCU
USC.
would be 3 maybe, and then TCU and the loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game in Tennessee might be there.
Yeah,
what did I say? TCU, Tennessee.
Yeah, USC would be the other team in the mix.
I think that we're all assuming that there's going to be 3 spots spoken for on the last day, and there's only going to be 1 spot to make up for. But I think there's certainly a chance that there could be 2 spots that aren't.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. TCU could lose. Other crazy things could happen. North Carolina and Clemson still 1-loss teams. Theoretically, they could still be alive too. So,
but I do think that it's pretty safe to say that was USC the biggest winner of the day.
Yes, even though they didn't play. Yes.
Well, on Friday, so you just put their game on Friday to Saturday, but the biggest winner of the playoff race, right? Because I don't think that Tennessee was necessarily threatened at all by Oregon, because I think that they would have gotten the right away there. But now Oregon's cleared out. LSU's going to get cleared out when they get creamed by Georgia and Atlanta.
Right.
So you have, USC there. There's not a lot of, USC needs TCU or Tennessee to lose. But there's a path there for them.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're going to go undefeated. Their defense is poo-poo.
Exactly.
It's cocky.
And that's the same problem we had with Oregon. We're watching Oregon. You and I are texting each other like,
you nailed it too.
They're not making it through this gauntlet with this defense. Whether they had won against Washington or not, they were not making it through this group of games.
That rope that Penix threw. Right before
the
drive.
Lord.
I said, Andy, what do you think the over-under on this touchdown drive is? And he said 5 plays. And I was like, that's a pretty aggressive line. And it took 2 or 3. So it's like, yeah. Also, Oregon, what are we doing? Where's the safety in it? I don't know what's going on.
No, the safety took it. That was just a laser beam for Penix. Like that's nobody makes that throw. That was incredible.
Yeah, I don't know. The guy was wide open. There was a little window there, but
we got to pause, Ari. When we come back, though, we leave the playoff picture, but we talk about teams that are playing in championship games that may play in championship games. And oh, by the way, the Big Ten West is giving us the year that the ACC Coastal always promised us and never gave us. We'll talk about it when we come back. Sling TV has something for everyone. All your favorite shows on all your favorite channels, all right at your fingertips. What you want to watch is up to you. It really just depends on what kind of mood you're in. If you're looking for sports, Sling's got you covered with pro and college football and basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, golf, racing, and so much more. Sling also has reality TV, so you can keep up with the latest gossip with today's hottest shows on channels like TLC, Bravo, MTV, and more. And don't forget about news. Get up to date with today's most trusted sources like MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. Feeling adventurous? Explore thousands of movies and shows on demand. So what kind of mood are you in? No matter the answer, Sling has what you need. And getting Sling is easy. Sign up and start watching in just 5 minutes. You can stream on any device and record up to 50 hours with your included DVR space. And the best part is you can pause or customize your subscription at any time. Check out sling.com for special offers. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. Reserve Bar is your online source for premium and luxury spirits, wine, and champagne. And now Reserve Bar offers same-day delivery. Reserve Bar has a vast lineup of rare and hard-to-find bottles, premium brands, celebrity spirits, and limited releases that you just won't find at your local store. And no one does spirits gifting better than Reserve Bar. Looking for an elevated gift? ReserveBar.com has you covered, and you can have that gift delivered right to the door, and you can get it engraved, which is perfect for birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, you name it. If you're getting into home bartending, they've got all the barware you need at Reserve Bar. Reserve Bar also has a great feature called Cocktail Lounge. It's a treasure trove of cocktail recipes, bartending tips, and interviews with master distillers, celebrities, and more. Need something for a party tonight? ReserveBar.com offers same-day delivery straight to your door. Did you forget that birthday gift? Reserve Bar to the rescue with same-day delivery. Visit ReserveBar.com today and use the promo code Andy to save $10 off your first purchase of $75 or more on spirits, wine, or pre-made cocktails, but only when you use our special offer at ReserveBar.com with the code Andy. That's ReserveBar.com, code Andy for $10 off your purchase of $75 or more. The offer expires on December 31st, 2022. Welcome back. Let's talk conference championship games because we've got a couple of them set. The SEC matchup is set. It will be Georgia against LSU. LSU surviving at Arkansas in an ugly, ugly game. Thank Harold Perkins as much as humanly possible, Tigers, because he was unstoppable. Had 4 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, and just basically looked like if you made the Predator a football player. The ACC title game is set. Clemson beat Louisville. North Carolina won a shootout with Wake Forest. Our Drake May for Heisman campaign continues, not just because
Drake May is 1-0 in games after he came on our show, by the way.
That's right. We are not a curse. So if you want to win the Heisman, come on our Hendon Hooker went like 8-0 before he lost the game after coming on our show.
We cursed KJ Jefferson, though.
We certainly did. That was the A&M week, wasn't it?
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. For a while there, Max and Sam show was a curse. Like every good Big 12 player that came on that show lost. They had Sonny Dykes this past week and it seemed to work for him. So
it is like, I mean, for future guests, and I'm not sure if I'm torpedoing our chances, but if you're trying to avoid grab outs in the field, then maybe don't play grab ass on Wednesday with us. But, or do,
Exactly. But hey, Drake May talked about the offense coordinator. His wife makes bread pudding. It's delicious. He hates scary movies. He hates roller coasters. He loves throwing touchdown passes, and he threw a bunch more against Wake Forest. That over didn't hit, by the way, Ari.
It didn't. No, it was. We were
very
2
close,
touchdowns. They were 2 touchdowns away from hitting the over late in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And if you would have said, "Will this over hit?" at that point, I would have been like, "Do you want to put my house up for collateral?" Because obviously. And I think there were 3 or 4 trips to the red zone in the fourth quarter, and it only amounted to 3 total points.
Yeah.
So, that's gambling's crazy, man. But Drake May, 31 for 49, 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, 19 carries, 71 yards, and a rushing score.
The guy's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, Bo Nix had a nice stat line tonight too, but Drake May just keeps putting up the numbers. Now, you may not like the defenses he's playing. I understand, but the dude's still putting it up. So Drake May, Hendon Hooker still doing very well. Blake Corum, another big game. CJ Stroud, a big game. So basically everybody who was kind of at the front kept moving toward the front. And the separation will come in the next few weeks for that too.
Well, someone just asked me, Nicholas Garcia, Ari, would you rather have Quinn Ewers or Drake May for the next 2 years? Drake May.
Oh, this is not even a question. I'm not sure there's a quarterback in the country that I'd rather have.
I think that and I know that people view me as a hot take artist, but reel me in here, Andy. I'm going to look at you in your beautiful eyes, and I'm going to tell you this. I would be shocked sitting here right now if you told me that Drake May wasn't the number 1 overall pick in the draft answers.
I think that's probably right. So if you go listen to my show with Dane Brugler, Prospects to Pros on the Athletic Football Show feed, we talk about that this week. Dane thinks that Drake May would be the QB1 of this class if he were in it.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, that he would be
quite the compliment.
He would be picked over CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and yeah. So
well, I don't know, how sometimes we like to throw weird comparisons out there. But let's just, for the sake of argument, throw out this weird comparison. he is 6'4", 220 pounds, runs really well, has a really big arm. Is he like Josh Allen in the making right now? Like, who are we watching? No, I'm not saying that.
Can't keep throwing around the Josh Allen comparisons.
No, I'm just saying like he is built like him and he plays like him. So like but you can't say let's stop throwing out the Josh Allen stuff. Like I get it. That's, as Dan Rubenstein likes to say with me, hyperbolic.
Yeah.
But if you want to say that you would take him over Bryce and CJ right now, that's a hell of a statement.
Yeah,
so like if you're going to go down that road, you have to
guys in college.
What is he projecting as here?
Well, this is a guy who wasn't a big high draft pick, but a guy in college who played like this, who was athletic and could run well, but it wasn't kind of the thing he really wanted to do the most, and could make great throws, like Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. I think Drake's a little more athletic. That's why Drake would be kind of a higher draft pick. Sean Polsher asked, was Drake May a big-time recruit? How did he end up at UNC? Well, if you listen to our interview with him, you will find out. But he was a big-time recruit. He was actually committed to Alabama first and then flipped to North Carolina as he watched North Carolina guy Sam Howell having success there. Remember, Drake May's dad played quarterback in North Carolina. His older brother, Luke, was a basketball star.
He's a 5-star prospect, ranked number 24 overall.
Yeah, he was a very, very good player.
This isn't just like 3-star. 3-star kid.
This is not diamond in the rough.
Stars. Yeah, there's no. He was a diamond. It just was out for everybody to see it. He was on the. He was a diamond in the showcase.
Yeah, that's right. He was at Saks Fifth Avenue or at Tiffany, like in the glass case.
Yeah, so, and we're 2 years away from him becoming the Hope Diamond. So as it pertains to value
for some terrible NFL franchise, exactly. Yeah. So. In the championship game, TCU clinched a spot in the Big 12 championship game. The Big 10 championship
game. But Andy,
game,
I got to yank you back for a second.
Okay, yank me back, please.
Is UNC going to make the playoff if they went out?
No.
They're out?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Listen, I keep telling you guys this, and nobody wants to listen to me. None of these teams are getting picked over an 11-1 Tennessee. They're not. Like, they're going to put the resumes side by side and take the names off and say who beat who, and Tennessee's going to be in. Like, I don't mean to disappoint everybody.
North Carolina beats Clemson at the end of the year and Clemson doesn't lose again. Mm-hmm. The committee is going to be very impressed by that. Now,
they'll be more impressed by beating Alabama and LSU.
I think you're probably right. I would not bet a large sum of money on it. Like that's like an absolute. I think that there is still a path here for them.
I think there's a path if some crazy stuff goes down. There's definitely, like, for them and Clemson, whoever wins that game.
Put up the Tanner H comment here.
Yep.
If UNC wins out, they will be seen.
They most certainly will not be seen
ruled
that way.
Conference champion. I don't know.
Because the rest of the schedules will not compare very favorably. Yeah, I don't know how to break this to you about the ACC, Tanner. It's not very well respected,
too. Yeah, no, I know. But like that defense hasn't really kept Oklahoma out for the last 5 years.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And Tennessee's defense isn't that great. So, but
what if Tennessee gets dump trucked in Atlanta?
Tennessee's not playing in Atlanta.
Sorry, not Tennessee. Sorry, LSU.
Well, they're gonna be.
Yeah,
I think.
So then you take their second most impressive win, and then you realize that it's over a pretty good team, but not an elite team.
Okay.
And then Alabama is not what we thought they were. Yeah. I think beating Clemson would probably be akin to beating Alabama in terms of the committee's eyes. Plus, you're doing it on a neutral field. Maybe I'm overthinking it here, but I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
Well, let's
and you win the conference championship.
Let's look at the FPI strength of schedule rankings. I'm genuinely curious to see where these are, because they also have the remaining strength of schedule. So Tennessee's strength of schedule going into this week was 2. The remaining strength of schedule is 75, so it's going to come down some, but not much because they've already played most of their schedule.
I'm afraid to hear this comparison because it's going to really blow up in my face.
North Carolina's strength of schedule is 86.
Oh, boy.
And their remaining strength of schedule is 23, so it will come up some, but it will not come all the way up.
But that does not factor in who they're playing yet, right?
Right. The Clemson thing will help that a lot.
It still won't be close.
Right.
They don't have a single really good win.
That, again, there's your problem. Like, if they'd have beaten Notre Dame, I think that helps.
Well, they'd be undefeated.
Well, right. But
yeah.
like if you swap Notre Dame for a loss to someone else, like let's say they had wound up losing to App State.
I just want to go on record here and say that I've been buying North Carolina stock for 2 years now. I'm just buying it and buying it and buying it and buying it. So, like, I'm not going to let go of them so easily. I want to be right about them.
I don't think you should. I think they're a great story. I think Drake May's awesome. And again, weird stuff can happen. Like, we are assuming chalk. Chalk is not necessarily going to happen.
Let me flip the script on you here.
Okay.
Take Tennessee out of this. Okay. Let's just say my scenario of 2 spots open up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tennessee slides in at 3.
Right. 12-1 TCU, 12-1 North Carolina, 12-1 or Clemson.
USC.
Or 12-1 USC. That's a really interesting, because I think North Carolina and USC TCU's are gone there. You think so? I think 12-1. All right,
especially if their loss is the Big 12 championship.
Let's look at those strengths of schedules again. TCU is 67. The remaining strength of schedule, which included tonight's game against Texas, is 1. So theirs is going to go up. But again, it's because it's only a fourth of the season. It's not going to go up as much. Where's USC here? I'm still looking. Oh, no, USC. So USC is the 61 strength of schedule, 35 remaining. So very comparable there. North Carolina, we said 86 and then 23 remaining. Clemson had the 55th toughest schedule, 55th or 52 remaining. So, I think.
And don't discount the sexiness factor of beating Clemson at the end. We know what Clemson is, but the committee won't.
It also, like, you covered a game like this. You had Ohio State. You were covering Ohio State in 2014 when they played Wisconsin.
Yes.
Like, the way they beat Wisconsin mattered. So, and this kind of goes both ways, whether that's
I have a conspiracy
Clemson
theory
or
about
North
2014,
Carolina.
though.
Oh, go ahead.
My conspiracy theory is that they couldn't pick between TCU and Baylor, so they just left both out.
I don't think so. I think they said if they played, if TCU played Ohio State or Baylor played Ohio State, who would win? And they're like, Ohio State would beat both of them.
Yeah, well, I think maybe both could be true.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's some complex thing.
They're just like, who do you think would win?
At the end of the day, that's the question they're asking.
Yeah. And like, who do you think would win? Who do you think would win if UNC played USC? Do you think that UNC would have 1,000 yards of offense in that game?
I think that game might be the most fun game ever, and it might last 6.5 hours.
Would it be more scoring than Wake Forest?
Yes.
Because USC has a better offense than Wake Forest, and USC
it would look like the UNC App State game.
What would the over under of that game be? Like 139.5?
It'd be like 70. It'd be like 79.
Yeah. So but who do you think would win UNC and TCU? I guess you have to go TCU.
I would pick TCU at this point because I think TCU would probably keep them below their scoring average, and North Carolina's offense would let TCU's offense score. Or North Carolina's defense would let TCU's offense score.
If we release a list of teams that are still alive, North Carolina's on the list. We can agree on that, right?
Absolutely, because stuff can happen. Oh, let's do that. We haven't done that exercise. Let's do it. Georgia's still alive. Ohio State's still alive.
Are you counting?
Yes. Michigan's still alive. That's 3. TCU is still alive is 4. USC, 5. UCLA as we speak, but they are trailing at the half. Right. So that's 6.
LSU's alive.
LSU.
USC's alive.
I already said USC.
Did you say you did?
Yep. North Carolina, Clemson. So we're at 9.
Yeah. That might be it.
That's it. It's 9.
9.
Yeah, because we had Illinois last time, remember? They were only 1 loss Illinois. Now they're 3 loss Illinois. Which brings me to something we were going to talk about earlier. The Big Ten title game. Remember when Illinois had beaten Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa, and we were sure that Illinois was going to be the West champ. We are not sure that Illinois is going to be the West champ now. Purdue actually is somewhat in the driver's seat, it feels like now. But Iowa definitely still has a chance.
Okay, so what's the situation there? I don't want to get out a Sharpie and start putting math down. Just help me out here.
All right. We went over this with our friend Ralph Russo earlier today. And Jerry Palm tweeted it out. So let's find the Jerry Palm tweet, because Jerry Palm is much smarter than we are. Purdue wins the Big Ten West if it wins out and either Minnesota or Nebraska beats Iowa.
And
that's a lot of ifs.
What if Iowa wins out? Do they control their own destiny?
Not if Purdue wins out. Oh, well, I guess they do, though.
In that scenario you just said is Purdue doesn't.
Iowa would lose. Ari, do you want to hear the remaining schedule for Purdue? You ready?
Isn't Purdue playing Northwestern and Indiana?
That would be correct.
But what you just said means that Iowa has the tiebreak over Purdue because they beat them.
They do have the tiebreak.
So, I just don't know who controls their own destiny here.
It sounds like Iowa does.
Yeah, because they're playing Minnesota. So Iowa controls their own destiny and Iowa. But Iowa lost to Illinois.
Correct.
This is confusing. I don't know who controls their own destiny.
Very confusing. Again, like I said, this is the season that the ACC Coastal always promised us but never gave us. The Hall of Meh that is the Big Ten West will eventually spit out a champion, and that team will be boat raced by Ohio State or Michigan.
If Iowa wins the Big Ten West, do we just say, you know what, Kirk, you're right, dude. Just keep doing what you're doing. I watched the entire Wisconsin
I did
Iowa
too.
game.
LeVar Woods deserves such a huge raise because that is it. That is a special teams win if ever there was a special teams win.
What Iowa does to people, but in the hidden yardage, is just surgical. I mean, it's like if I were the head coach of Wisconsin, I had blood vessels in my face breaking. It's frustrating as a onlooker to watch what they do to you.
Every time Wisconsin punted, I was like, oh well,
they'll get the ball.
Iowa's going to gain a massive advantage here. Well, no, because they blocked one punt that set up a score, and then they had a big return that set up more.
But when they punted back and forth to each other for the entire third quarter, it felt like
Iowa's punting is good and Wisconsin's punting.
That's
was
what I'm
not
saying.
Good. Yeah.
Iowa was moving the ball down the field from punting.
Yeah.
So, they had two offensive touchdowns in the first half. One was right after a blocked punt. The other one was one offensive touchdown.
Kirk Ferentz thinks this is the hottest conversation he's ever heard on a podcast.
No, I mean, but Iowa is like, you want to talk about sucking the soul out of your chest? Iowa does it in an inhumane, disgusting way.
You're exactly right.
At least Georgia does it nobly. Georgia is
just by smothering you on defense, and then
Georgia's the guy who just
throwing
comes
to Darnell Washington when they don't. The play where Bennett fakes to Brock Bowers and then throws to Darnell Washington was that's the scariest pass play that's ever been run.
Georgia beats the crap out of you. Iowa does the thing where they poke you in the eyeballs
over and over and over again. Yeah. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, and it's just it works. I can't help but say if Iowa had a competent offense, how awesome they would be.
Oh my god!
But
dude, so they good.
Wisconsin, by the way.
Yep.
Stinks.
Say it.
They stink. I don't know what happened to Graham Mertz. Stars
didn't matter there?
No, of course not. I don't know if it's Graham's fault or if it's Wisconsin's fault.
Yeah, there's a lot of water under that particular bridge, so I don't know either, but I do know if they could hit some open receivers every once in a while, that game would have turned out very different.
Throwing the ball into the second row of the stands every time he threw the ball.
Yeah.
I have no idea what was happening in that game.
Well, so I mean, Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Can you even imagine after all this? Because like if they clinch the Big Ten West, can you imagine Kirk getting up either after he's holding Floyd of Rosedale, if it's next week, or if it's after they beat Nebraska on Black Friday, and he's just like, suck it to all of you. I'm gonna be here forever.
I think that they
and guess who's gonna run the offense forever?
I was gonna say, like, the best thing that Iowa could do is the day that they clinch the Big Ten West championship and punch their ticket to Indy, they should just send a press release out about an extension for Brian Ferentz.
Lifetime extension.
Just like I think it'd be funnier if it was a 3-year deal. Just like, because like it's real, like you have to, but like Kirk Ferentz is definitely the coach that loves to tell you how good they used to be in the news conferences. So like if they go to the Big Ten West and he keeps his son, he will trot out to the press conference a year from now and say, you know what, we won the Big Ten West last year. I don't know what else you want from us. We played better down the stretch. I like the direction our program was headed in. We're going to give this another shot because I don't give up.
I just think he should get up and be like, you idiots on that podcast. It's supposed to be a national show, but you talked about my offense every week.
I mean, this is the worst case scenario for Iowa fans. And I hate to say it, but you want to beat your rival, of course. Don't tweet at me. It's important to win a rival game. I get it. Giving Kirk Ferentz any hope that this thing's the right way to go, I think is a really bad problem for you. I don't know. I legitimately don't know if I enjoyed watching that game at all. Like, I don't know if I hate watched it or if it was beautiful. Like, I don't know how to parse through my emotions.
There's in the back of my head, because I'm watching 4 different screens and I'm watching modern competent offenses. And this wasn't just a criticism of Iowa. It's also a criticism of Wisconsin, which obviously there's a coaching change. We all assume Jim Leonard's going to get the job full time, but he may make some changes offensively. I don't know. Maybe just add some stuff. Like,
I mean, Wisconsin's offense was worse, right?
You can keep doing what you're doing, but I don't know.
Iowa's defense is better than Wisconsin's.
Maybe play tempo every once in a while. Like Georgia plays tempo every once in a while. They still maul people. It's possible.
I've never thought in a million years that I would be watching a Wisconsin game during the Graham Mertz era and be longing for a Scott Tolzien clone.
Yeah, Ari, this is the thing though.
Be who you are.
No. Sometimes Scott Tolzien is all you need.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like Scott Tolzien is the perfect person for what they did.
I know.
It's all you yes.
A guy who can make intermediate throws consistently, but isn't going to like the world.
Stop aspiring to get the Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence type recruit, and find you your Scott Tolzien.
There are about 900,000 of them per cycle, so it shouldn't be that hard.
Exactly. Especially because you could probably pull them out of the portal from some FCS school. Just find you your Scott Tolzien.
He has to be a statue. He can't move.
All right, when we come back, we got to talk about
Iowa
one
again.
game. No. One game between two teams that probably aren't going to bowl games. Two very drastic, different experiences in that game. One has flipped from overwhelmingly negative to overwhelmingly positive, and one just keeps circling the drain. We'll talk about it when we return. I have 10,000 pictures of my kids on my phone, but I have no idea how I'm going to compile all of that into an actual story for them. Artifact completely solves this problem. At the end of each year, they create a narrated video yearbook about each of my kids. Artifact sets me up with a professional interviewer to talk about my children throughout the year. I add photos whenever I want, and the whizzes at Artifact edit it all together into a video yearbook. It's easy, fun, and affordable. The grandparents absolutely love it. And you know what? One day, it's going to be an amazing gift for the kids themselves. You might remember that Artifact is a longtime sponsor of this show. They still do life stories of older family members, but now they have a product for parents like me, watching my kids grow up way too fast and wanting to hold on to those memories while they're fresh. You can sign up to try it yourself for less than $9 a month when you use my code STAPLES at checkout. So go to heyartifact.com/kids and enter the code STAPLES to get started. That's heyartifact.com/kids and enter the code STAPLES. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you've heard me talk about Roback. You know I was wearing my green Roback Performance hoodie when I caught a pass during the Alabama-Texas A&M game at Bryant-Denny Stadium because Roback makes you elite. I mean, it has to be that. That has to be the reason that I made a one-handed catch in an SEC football game. But it doesn't just have to be me. It could be you too. Roback's performance polos, performance hoodies, performance joggers, everyday shorts. They are the athleisure that makes you feel like you can do anything. And by the way, it's not just stuff to wear when you're lounging around. Right now, if you're watching the video stream, I am wearing my blue herringbone Roback Performance Polo. This thing looks great anywhere. And look, you're walking around, you see somebody else rocking that dog logo, you give them a little nod. You're like, oh yeah, you, sir or madam, are also elite. So go to roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week using the code Andy. That's RHOBACK.com with the code Andy. 20% off polos, Q-zips, hoodies, shorts, you name it. Roback.com, RHOBACK.com, and the code is Andy. Welcome back, and we're going to talk about a game in the SEC. First, though, in the chat on YouTube, Randy Payne, go Dogs from Tifton, Georgia. Heck yeah, Tifton, Georgia. Exit 62 on I-75 in the state of Georgia, the best exit on Interstate 75. And I know I've driven pretty much the entire thing from Miami to Canada.
What, a sweet gas station there or something?
Oh, no, they got all the gas stations, but they also have a Logan's Roadhouse. They have a beautiful Chick-fil-A that I once watched a very high-speed police chase through. They have a brand new Panera Bread. They got a Star. It's the last Starbucks for a long time if you're heading north. But it's also, I turn off there when I'm headed to Auburn. And that is where we're headed now because there was a game on the Plains that it was a hideous game. 13-10. Texas A&M gained -6 yards in the third quarter. -6. Auburn turned the ball over 4 times, and it felt like they were trying to give the game to Texas A&M, but Texas A&M just wouldn't take it. But the fans were going berserk at Jordan-Hare. Carnell Williams was having so much fun on the sideline, and he cut a promo with Cole Kubelik after that game where he looks around, he waves his hand around the stadium, he goes, who wouldn't want to come to Auburn? This is Auburn that just fired its coach. This is Auburn that had lost 5 in a row before this game.
And it wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny at all. Like,
yeah.
He's dead serious. 2, if you watched that whole thing and you were watching that scene, you're like, hell yeah, I want to come to Auburn. That looks amazing.
And that's kind of why they have hope no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, and here's the thing about it. I've always said, and the folks at Sports Source Analytics back me up on this, hiring someone who went to your school is irrelevant. It does not really change things one way or another. It doesn't give them a better chance to win. It doesn't make it harder for them to win. But we talked about this earlier this year. Making your interim someone who is an alum is probably a good thing. It is probably a helpful thing because that person can still recruit and they can tell people, hey, I may not be here next year, but I can tell you that this place was great for me and it was great for my life.
It's a perfect point.
So I think, can they win the Iron Bowl? I have no idea. But they're going to play Western Kentucky next week. I think they can win that game. Austin Reed, who the guy Western Kentucky pulled out of D2, good quarterback. But I think Auburn can win that game. I think it's going to be Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter running for a lot of yards. But what Carnell Williams has done just over these past couple weeks is unbelievable.
We should write a column about that. That's a take. I'll do it if you don't want to do it.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. But, I'll take your idea and put it into words.
But I don't know. I don't think it means he's going to get the Auburn job. Now, if I am the new Auburn head coach who gets millions and bajillions of dollars thrown at me, I am probably trying to keep him on my staff.
Yeah.
But if I'm somebody else, I'm looking at him and going, you know what? Maybe I want him. Maybe I want him to be my head coach.
Yeah. I think he's kind of got a ways to go about game management and
Well, yeah. I
you
mean,
know, but that stuff is
been the head
fixable.
coach for 2
2
games.
games,
So,
yeah. But he has the spirit, I think, and that's a
yeah.
very important tool to have.
And he can get people to play together. And what it was interesting what he kept saying is like you have to serve these guys. Because everybody kept asking him, like, how are you doing this? How are you leading them? How are you creating this environment? He's like, I am not. I am serving these guys. And I think that's an important thing to think about, especially those guys at Auburn. You've got some really talented players who have been through a lot of crap. The guy who recruited them, Gus Malzahn, got fired. The guy that they hired to replace him got fired. And now you're just running out the string after a big, long losing streak. But guess what? They've found a way to make that fun and to make that memorable. And I guarantee you, those Auburn players will remember this game for the rest of their lives.
And they should.
Now, the Texas A&M players will also remember this game for the rest of their life. That was hideous. And
I don't even know what else there is to add to this, Andy.
I don't think, well, here's the thing. I don't think there's any question now that Jimbo Fisher has to hire an offensive coordinator. Like, their offense is so putrid. And Connor Wegman, we thought maybe looked a little better. No, not better with him either. Like, they need new ideas.
Yards per attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They need new ideas. They need something new. They cannot fire Jimbo Fisher or they would have to pay him $86 million. I don't think they're going to do that. I really don't. But just in case, I am pulling up the calculator app on my phone because we're a bad at math podcast.
Wow. This really took a turn.
$21.5 million up front. The rest of it paid out over the next 9 years. Would you seriously consider it at this point, Ari?
No.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got through that because I still don't think it's possible. Nobody I've talked to said it's possible. Everybody that you hear anything from says, well, there's a clause in his contract about insubordination. No, his contract's on the internet, people. You can read it. It spells out very clearly how he can be fired for cause. It's not what you think it is. So if you want to go read it, type in Jimbo Fisher contract PDF and it'll come up. So,
and trust me, people smarter than us read it first before he signed it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
With that much money at stake, you can bet your ass that the language is exactly the way that Jimbo Fisher wanted it.
Exactly. So Ari, he's got to hire an offensive coordinator. That has to happen. They are not going to a bowl game now. Obviously, it's been open season. We know how tampering works. It's everywhere. It's been open season on that whole recruiting class pretty much since the wheels started coming off. How much of that recruiting class do you think is at Texas A&M come spring practice?
Half.
Which would be a devastating blow.
Which would mean 9 top 100 players leaving.
Yes.
Which is double what a top 5 class will sign in this year's cycle.
Right. And we don't know where they go. And It might be all different places.
Yeah, it just might be like Hanukkah. Everybody gets a night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, how do they? Yeah, okay. How do you? I'm going to put you in it because you're Mr. Recruiting. You're Mr. Stars Matter. Yeah. I'm going to put you in Jimbo Fisher's shoes. You don't have to talk as fast, but
do I get a gold Rolex?
You better. You better have one and some fancy custom boots, some Lucchese's. Yeah. So I am one of the members of the class. Let's say I'm a 5-star defensive lineman. I have played some. I've been somewhat productive. My ceiling is through the roof.
I'd probably change the position because you could sell a defensive lineman there, I think.
You think so?
I think that would be the easiest person.
Okay, I'm Evan Stewart. I'm Evan Stewart. Coach, you guys were so thin at receiver that you decided I had to be wide receiver 1 at one point. I would like to be wide receiver 1, but can I be wide receiver 1 in a functional offense? What are you going to do about that, Coach? Because I got Billy Napier calling me. Well, he's not calling me because that would be against the rules, but I got people who know him calling me, and they're saying Anthony Richardson's going to stay. and I can catch passes from him because they don't really have any dynamic receivers. I got people from Auburn calling me because they're saying they're flipping their whole roster. I got people from Alabama calling me because they didn't have any dynamic receivers this year. I got people from Tennessee calling me going, did you see what we did with these guys this year? What are you going to do, coach?
And the funniest thing about it is that like the NIL thing that we already got an NIL here comment, but that's not going to sell them right now.
Right, they already have an NIL deal with A&M. Somebody else is going to offer them an NIL deal and a better offense to play.
And the stakes are higher because you're trying to get drafted.
Right.
You might be able to get your NIL deal your freshman year and get some guaranteed money, but the second you become a sophomore, you're a year and a half away from the draft process. You're playing with a pretty large stake when it comes to financial implications. You know what I would say? I mean, I don't even know what you do say, but I would say this has been a building process. Everything that you guys envisioned when you signed last year can still come true, but the only way that comes true is if you stay. I am 100%.
How you gonna make me stay, coach?
I'm 100% dedicated to looking in the mirror and accepting the faults that we've had offensively this year. And in doing so, I will hire the most qualified and smart offensive coordinator with your best interest in mind to not only help you personally in your goals of achieving first round draft pick status because you have the talent to do so, but you have my word that A&M will have you and the rest of this class in mind as we restructure our offense next year, because it's not just you that's got skin in this game. I do as well. I need you to trust me like you trusted me a year ago. I love you. I want this program to succeed. I want this offense to be great, and we're going to do everything in our power financially and, work ethic-wise to change that.
You going to throw me the rock, coach?
I'm going to throw you the rock.
Deal. Where's my NIL money?
I don't know if that's good enough, but I think that's kind of like what else do you say?
I think that's all he can say, and he has to have real answers, and he has to have real answers fast.
Because the thing about it is that there will be real answers that are guaranteed in the portal.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly.
You got to take a leap of faith to stay.
Right.
You can have the proof of concept is already there at the places that are going to come after them.
Tennessee doesn't even have to tamper. Like,
you watch the Alabama game?
Yeah. Like, they just have to post YouTube clips. and Florida and Florida State and Miami, these are all places that are like, portal open for business. We need receivers. Alabama is going to be like, we need receivers. Let's go.
There was a really big theme on Saturday. There's a lot of incompetent offenses this year.
There are.
More so than like, and when I say incompetent, I mean like awfully hard to watch.
Yeah, just frustrating. Like, how can you?
Yeah,
you practice every day. How can you not do anything?
Literally.
Yep. So, North Carolina, that's one. Drake May stuck here another year because the NFL has an age limit.
Well, I mean, Downs is so good.
He is, but he may be gone.
North Carolina would be a hell of a place for Evan Stewart.
Yeah, and we keep using Evan Stewart for an example, but like those D linemen don't all have to stay either.
Right. I think the defensive linemen have more proof of concept. Didn't they have?
They've almost all played.
They've all played. They've all been pretty good, and they've had linemen drafted on the defensive line the last few years. Like I think the thing with a defensive lineman too is that your tape is your tape. Like when you're a receiver, you're reliant on
someone
somebody else.
Throw you the ball, and the play called has to be. You're right. A defensive like Jalen Carter, you put him on any team in the country,
he's getting drafted,
and the NFL is going to be like, "We love you."
Yeah. Harold Perkins, same thing.
Oh man, how great was Harold Perkins?
I just had to say that just to turn the knife a little bit because he should be on A&M's roster right now, right?
That's the A&M fans probably thinking that, going, "Oh,
they're watching it, but going, God."
He saved LSU. We haven't really gotten into that game, but we do need to talk about that game because when you
I was convinced that Arkansas was going to win the entire game.
When you find out KJ Jefferson's not playing, and that was not because the line was between 3 and 4. LSU by 3 to 4 all week. I would think if it was known to Vegas that KJ Jefferson was not playing, the line would have been higher.
Well, the question is, if KJ Jefferson did play, does Arkansas win?
Maybe, because they were non-functional offensively. They had
the one decent
drive. They had the one decent drive with Cade Fortin, and that was it.
It's a trap.
It was,
it was a trap because it was 3.5 and 4 all week. I don't know if I ever saw it at 3.
Yep. No, so they could not function offensively without KJ Jefferson. So you're right. If KJ Jefferson had played, we're probably having a different conversation about that game because Ole Miss and Alabama are still in the mix.
Significant because Alabama's season ended when they won.
Right. So this is going to be as we hurtle toward the finish. Ari, I can't believe this. Only 2 weeks left for the regular season.
I know. I'm excited to see you in Vegas, but I'm sad that'll be the end of the year. It's kind of like speed it up, but slow it down.
We should tell the people about this. I know we've told you about this before, but we are doing on Championship Saturday live show from Vegas. The next day when they introduce the playoff teams, live show from Vegas. We're going to be at the Pac-12 championship game. It's going to be a ton of fun. So if you're out in Vegas that weekend, we're going to be at Mandalay Bay. Our partners at BetMGM are hooking us up with space out there. And so we will be in the sports book, and we are going to have a lot of fun all weekend. You may wind up on the podcast yourself if you're there with us. We're probably going to have a bet on the Pac-12 championship game. We haven't really decided what that's going to be yet.
We might already have a bet, Andy.
Yeah, we were discussing the scorpion shot at Nacho Daddy, where it's a shot of tequila with a scorpion in it. I don't know if you have to eat the scorpion. I don't know how that works exactly.
Oh God, that just grosses me out just thinking about it.
Well, we'll see what we got to find out who's going to be in the Pac-12 championship game first, and the picture significantly muddied and could be muddier. So, if UCLA wins, this will be the last you hear from us. If UCLA loses, this will also be the last you hear from us. But if UCLA loses, you will have heard something before that we have yet to record. Ari and I will be coming back and recording more to discuss even further the chaos in the Pac-12 if UCLA winds up losing this game, which at this point, Ari, I don't think I'd make any plans.
Arizona just blocked a field goal, so.
Yeah. This is so much fun. Every weekend, it's so much fun. We love you guys. We got shows all week. We're going to have some fun this week. Whether the playoff rankings change much or not, we'll have plenty to talk about. And you may or may not hear from us again, but at the beginning of the show. But then you'd already know that because you've time traveled. And now my head's going to explode. Goodbye.